Johnson. And first of all, I'd like to say it's an honor to be here. So Jennifer didn't have to talk me into being here. I was so excited to come and share my story. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to tell my story, my journey of mental health and my journey of recovery in clutter and clutter management. Again, my name is Nancy Johnson. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a minister. I work full time for the next like 24 days. But I also have a diagnosis of depression and PTSD. I suffered for decades with episodes of what I call darkness. I would go into darkness with depression episodes. Those episodes would just paralyze me. I would become paralyzed in darkness. And when that would happen for me, everything suffered. My household suffered, my home suffered, my career suffered, my finances suffered, my relationships all suffered. And they suffered as a result of the shame and the guilt that was imposed during in darkness. I'd come out of darkness because the darkness period may last a few days, it may last a few weeks. And then I'd come out and I'd feel good and I'd look around and I'd see everything that was neglected and I'd try to fix it. But I never was out like long enough to actually fix it. I would, in those times, I'd investigate strategies and tips and so on and so forth, but I was in and out. And as I said, it affected my home, it affected my finances, every terrible negative thing you could think about somebody and their finances. If you want to know how to get out of it, I'm your girl. I can tell you because I've been there and done that. Okay. So for years, and I struggled and I would, like I said, I would read books and try to get tips and things like that. But I just completely would struggle all the time with darkness. And this went on for decades, pretty much all of my adult life. It went on until after raising all my children. And, I was raising children that were active they were active in school. I was taking them from place to place. I had ministry responsibilities, all those things while battling darkness. In fact, I encountered somebody just recently and they were, how you check in with new friends or friends that you haven't checked in with for a while. And what's up? And I said, oh, I'm doing the support groups and stuff like that. She was a coworker and a friend, that type of person in your life. She said she had no idea that I suffered from this darkness. So I would go in and out, and finally, there was a pastor said, sometimes when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you do something about it. Well, sometimes tragedy causes you to have to do something about it. And so let me just say this. I came to a point, I lost my most favorite person in the whole wide world, and they lost their battle to mental illness. And as a result of that grief, I was in a period of darkness for much longer. Let me just say that. And I'm kind of back up too. I want to give you a visual of what my life kind of looked like. Just imagine if you go in and you are going to clean out that front closet. So you pull everything out of the closet and you got this pile over here of things that are supposed to be in the closet. And then you got all this trash over here, stuff that's of no good to anybody else. And then you got a pile over here of stuff that should have been someplace else in the house. You shouldn't have been in that front closet. And then you got a pile of things that you want to donate or get rid of or so forth. And then you slip into darkness and you're paralyzed. Well, then the mail keeps coming in. The backpacks keep coming in. The things to sign off for school keep coming in, and school pictures. And you name it, keeps happening. Meals keep being made and practices keep going. And all of that is left piled up with the new piles of things that have now accumulated. And I also had accumulation of things just like everybody else. My junk was probably just the same. I had parents that my father, I moved in with me um, from Southern Illinois. My mother passed away. Both my grandmothers had passed away, but lived with my parents prior to them passing away. So I had kind of 3 generations of stuff that everybody seemed to think was important. And I think I moved it 3 times. Again, I struggled all my life. And so I had raised adult children. And if anybody knows anything about adult children, they come and go. And then when they go, they don't take all the stuff they came with. Because that's the stuff they don't want, but it's valuable stuff and whatever. So I'm not saying this like, feel sorry for me, because I'm just saying I'm the same as everybody else has. And that's often how accumulations begin. And then we go back, it was my grandson that I lost. I decided I was going to go to therapy. And therapy was good. I mean, therapy kind of showed me some things that I was struggling with. I kind of identified some things with shame, and it worked out well for me. It did put some distance between one episode to another, but I still felt like I was spending a lot of that distance time in between fighting not to fall into darkness again. So it was still a struggle for me. And so the therapist, she recommended maybe I tried medication. Now, I tried medication a few times before, and I wasn't successful because I wasn't successful with it. I didn't keep with it, or whatever the case may be. I honestly can say the few times that I did, I didn't give it a good college try. But this time, I went to my doctor, and my doctor said, we're going to put you on this medication. She started with a really low dose. And to do that, and doing that, I think she wanted to start to make sure that I didn't have any of the side effects, so that I wouldn't give up, right? And she said, and then we're going to increase the dose. And she said, don't worry about it, because if this doesn't work for you, we have other things that we can do. And I said, well, it doesn't work for me. I said, well, how am I supposed to feel? How am I supposed to know that it's working for me? And she says, well, if it's working for you, you'll feel just like everybody else does. What? I had no idea what she was talking about. Absolutely, but at any rate, I took the medication, and I promise you, I didn't feel, obviously, it wasn't a happy pill that I was taking, but I did feel better. I felt a little bit different. And for everybody in the room probably is very familiar with mental illness, but I always like to share this with people. With mental illness, there's no cure. All you do is manage, and you manage your mental illness. But that's the same as it is with other illnesses. Like diabetes and high blood pressure, it's not really a cure. You're just managing it. And the same as with mental illness, if you're diagnosed with diabetes or high blood pressure, they'll give you medication. That's not going to cure you, and it will assist in managing. But of course, the doctor is going to insist upon lifestyle changes. There's things that you need to do. As it is with mental illnesses, it requires that you do lifestyle changes to change that. So I began to investigate, what was I missing prior to getting this medicine? Or what kind of things should I be doing that would be of assistance? And one thing my doctor has often said to me, and I stick with it, she said, Nancy, she says, nobody's gonna get in line for your health but you. Your husband might want to, your kids may want to, your siblings may want to, but you got to get in that line yourself. So that was very important to me. So I said, okay, so if I'm just managing, what is it that I'm missing? What kind of lifestyle changes do I need to do? And so I began to look at it. And that's when I was introduced to the hormone cortisol. And I was like, okay. Cortisol, for those who may or may not know, cortisol is a hormone in your body. It's a stress hormone. And cortisol, when you're stressed, it increases your glucose, it increases your heart rate, it increases your blood pressure, it increases your adrenaline. It works really well. It's like if you're getting chased by a dog, it comes in really handy because it sparks up and then it's supposed to go down. The problem is sometimes, well, it's not sometimes, a lot of times with cortisol, is that it goes up and it stays there. Mm-hmm. See, my cortisol was going up every time I entered my house. My cortisol was going up every time I went to the mailbox, often when the phone rang. Certainly when somebody unexpected came to the door. So I lived with it at that point. If you live like that for a long period of time, it possibly will promote things like depression, anxiety, diabetes, because your brain and your body are interconnected. So there we go. So now I'm on a journey to find out what can I do to lower my cortisol. So before I say that, I always have a story. I got 2 or 3 stories. As I said, mental illness needs to be managed. In my early 20s, I was in a bad car accident. I broke my leg. I was in traction for 3 weeks. And then I had surgery. And then I was ready to go home from the hospital. So I had to go to physical therapy because this break, now that I had the traction and the surgery, I could not put any weight on that leg for the next 6 months. So physical therapy was going to show me how to go up and down stairs, get in and out of the shower, stand up and do my dishes, finagle a laundry thing or whatever, grocery shop, you name it, everything. In other words, it was going to try to teach me how to live my life with one leg. So when I went to my first session of physical therapy, the nurse came in, she said, would you like your pain medicine? And I said, no, I don't. I said, I'll wait till I come back because I don't know how I'm going to be feeling when I get back, right? And so I went to the physical therapy thing. And as I'm leaving, the therapist says, did you take your pain medicine before you came here? I said, no. I told him what I told the nurse, right? And he said, when you come back next time, take it beforehand. Not taking it beforehand did not heal my leg, but it gave me what I needed to learn the strategies and gain the tools to live with one leg for the next 6 months. As it is with mental illness, and as it is for me by taking medication. It didn't cure my depression or PTSD, but it allowed me a runway to be able to learn the tools to manage. Okay, cortisol. How do I lower my cortisol? And then it was brought to my attention, or I learned, and then I began to practice the 7 pillars of self-care for better mental health. Now, pillars in the natural are columns that support a structure. So these 7 columns are what support my mental health. It starts with mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, environmental, recreational, and social. And for this group, we're going to talk about the environmental part of it. Environmental for me, it's very necessary for my mental health to see daylight every day. whether it's cloudy or however it is, to get outside every day. And sometimes when it's so freezing cold, just getting outside to take the trash out is substantial. But it's also your environment where you live, the clutter, amount of clutter around you. And what I have found is that it's up to everybody, their threshold of what they can tolerate for clutter, you know. So what I began to do, and I had been a little bit familiar with this before I became medicated, but now, you know, I got some power behind me. So, you know, I began to inquire and listen to the wisdom of many of the experts. Jennifer shared with us last month about Dana K. White, who I'm a great fan of, A Slab Comes Clean. The clutter bug. I've taken the clutter bug test, so I now know what kind of bug I am and how I need to live my life. And I'll just kind of give you an example, and I'm probably getting a little bit off course, but I imagine you don't care. But I can't have stuff with tops on it, like a basket, like to organize, because I'm not going to open the top. We just recently, my husband, I forget what it was. He says, well, we could get that down. I think it was down by the laundry or something. And, you know, one of those with the lid, I said, no, because I'm not going to use the lid. See, I'll pile whatever is on top of the lid. So that has to be all open baskets if I'm going to use baskets for organizing. So I learned that type of thing. I'm a great fan of Mel Robbins. It has not necessarily anything to do with clutter, but it does. I've heard her speak about things. She's had both the ladies that I'm talking about, you know, on her podcast. But what those women did and the community that they serve and different other people that I've listened to is let me know that I wasn't alone. Because I thought I was the only one. All my friends, all the people at church, you know, their houses were they seemed to be spick and span when I went there. Just if I had to drop off something or drop a kid off, or
I'll have you over and
yeah,
you can
yeah,
feel like you're not.
yeah. I was the only one that was like that, and I couldn't ask for help because I couldn't say I was the one. You know, so those people online assisted me in letting me know that I wasn't alone. And so I began to practice those things. And I am now a recovering, I guess. You know, I still have the tendencies. I still can't use lids on top of things, or I'll just pile it up. Things sometimes for me still can get out of control, but I had a testimony I think it was Thanksgivings ago. My daughters, I'm a mother of 3 daughters and granddaughters and and all of that with a lot of girls. But anyway, one of my daughters, she's there helping and we're cooking and so forth. And she said, is there anything else you want to do? And I said, well, on the buffet in the dining room, I said, I need to clean that off. And she said, I can do it. I said, no, I'll do it. So I went in there because, you know, you're preparing for Thanksgiving and different things like that. So things have gotten a little bit out of control there. And I come back in 5 or 10 minutes and I had to say to her, I says, you know, why? I said, I'm done. I said, why? I wasn't just shoving stuff in drawers. I was shoving stuff in the place where it was supposed to go because the past few days I've been grocery shopping or baking or whatever. And, you know, but it had a place to go and it was easy. So my whole goal wasn't to have that showcase home, which I don't. My goal was to have that home that I was at peace and at ease with things, that I'm not searching for my keys all the time. I'm not looking for that thing. I'm not buying duplicates of it. And, you know, so I guess, long story short, I started taking medication. I'm on my journey and I can say I've accomplished it. You can come to my house right now. I think there's a dollar store bag sitting on the floor right there at the entryway, but no problem, because you know what I'm saying is I know that I can pick up that dollar store bag and I know where those things go. You know, you could open the doors of my closet. So, and since then, I've been committed to helping other people who are struggling with not only their mental health, but with their clutter and so forth. I guess I'll just leave it there. I try to close. That's all I have for you, but I am so very open to questions. I think, you know, if you have questions, you want to know anything about me, I'm very transparent. And I hope I didn't miss anything.
I need to turn my speaker up.
Okay. You want me to stop the recording?
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and stop the recording for now. And if